Hello, today is the 23rd, no, 25th, sorry, 25th of June 2023. And today Alvaro Siza is 90 years old. Let's wish him happy birthday. And let's read a little bit about him. Alvaro Joaquim de Melo Siza Vieira, God, born on the 25th of June 1933. So yes, he is 90 years old today. He's a Portuguese architect and architectural educator. He is internationally known as Alvaro Siza, and in Portugal as Siza Vieira. He teaches in Porto, at the School of Architecture in Porto. This is what he said: beauty is the peak of functionality. And the functionalists, I would say, are very happy. But it depends what you understand by functionality, because beauty itself as a function. A functionalism without beauty is a deficient functional or functionality. So what he said, of course, is very convenient for the functionalists, but we shouldn't take literally what he said and reflect a little bit on it, because functionality also welcomes and even benefits from superfluousness sometimes and capriciousness, which are always part of art. And okay, architecture is not just art or an art per se, but it could become art. And at its best, I think it does become art, and that's why it's present in any or almost any history of art. Drawings, he drew very poetically, and in fact, very non-functionally, if I am to say so. The drawings of Alvaro Siza are some of the most poetical and, in a certain sense, non-functional, non-descriptive architectural drawings ever drawn. Maybe here not so much, but there are sketches by many. He loves to draw. Alvaro Siza loves to draw, and he draw well. It seems he also loves to smoke. I saw him all the time with a cigarette in his hand. It seems he has also a lighter in his right hand here. A very passionate man. That look at this drawing. I mean, yes, it is depicting. Even a house, but the manner of the drawing is rather lyrical. And there are other drawings. Look at the human silhouette there. It's not what usually architects do. Again, in the drawing, the cigarette, the ubiquitous cigarette. Look again at this sketch. I am sure that, or I imagine that if you present such sketches in your studies at the university, you might be, asked to reconsider the graphic representation of what you intend to do. But this is how Alvaro Siza drew and draws and will draw. I like the drawings of Alvaro Siza very much, and I didn't choose here the most representative for their lyricism. So this gentleman is 90 years old today. Now look again at this drawing. This is the drawing of an artist. It's not the drawing of an architect. But there is no contradiction between being an artist and being an architect. Often they are the same person. These are studies for Bonjour Tristesse building in Berlin, the apartment building, which I like very much, built in Berlin. Alvaro Siza Vieira, Drawing and Space. There are books with his drawings. There are exhibitions with his drawings. He draws, he draws, he draws. His enchantment or his disappointments with life are present in his drawings as well. Alvaro Siza Vieira. He built a lot, but he drew even more. Happy birthday to you, sir. I don't know what's happening here. There was a picture interfering. I don't know what that is. Ah, this is an accident. That's nice. I don't know what it is. Anyway, here he is. Alvaro Siza is the Pritzker Prize laureate. He won the Pritzker Prize for his architecture. Some works, because he built a lot. To an extent, my presentation is not totally doing justice to him, but yes, on his 90th birthday, we talk about him. Let's see some of these works. Building on the water. This is a building done in China. Yes, his architecture is, it's in a way strange because it cultivates a certain purity, although there are complexities in terms of the crystallization of functions, but very often he uses whiteness. it's a whiteness which seems to I'm sorry, contradict the visceralities of his drawings. Even here, if we look at this Apollonian island, it doesn't comment in any way about the industrialism of what is happening beyond the water. It's a place of serenity that doesn't want to address the other aspects of reality. I don't know very well what to say about this. I think it is the responsibility of art and of architecture as well to express life in all its aspects, if possible, and not to remove itself from that expression. Here we see these very well-known white walls of Alvaro Siza, but I'm not sure these white walls tell the whole truth about, on one hand, the society that built them, the businesses that built it, that built them. It's an architecture that is, in my opinion, a little bit opaque about some hidden aspects of what generated it. I find this a little bit problematic. For my taste, is a little bit too white and too serene. Not that he was always like this. I remember an early house built by him, which I like very much, and unfortunately, I don't think I have it in this presentation. Or I hope I do, but I think I don't have it in this presentation. Look also at the interior, so much whiteness. Everything is clean and white, but imagine that this whiteness has to be taken care of by an army of cleaning people. You can't have so much whiteness with activity around. It's impossible. You need to begin with the clean shoes, clean soles, the soles of the shoes. once you bring in the people, you know, the things change. Then some unavoidable dirty spots and traces will show up. Yes, as I said, for my taste, a little bit too much whiteness and too much serenity. I think he's hiding something. And strangely, as I said, I've heard him in a conference I attended in New York. He admires very much Fernando Pessoa, the Portuguese poet, who was actually trying to divulge some of that so-called darkness that does exist in life. But somehow Alvaro Siza stays away from that. And I personally find it a little bit problematic. For example, an architect like Luis Barragan, who also advocated, you know, serenity and, you know, peace and harmony, he was not at all reluctant to use color, even, you know, vivacious color. But this whiteness here is I don't know. I would almost say it's anti-life. Yes, with the forms he plays, there is then the reflection of the building in the water, there is the sky, there are seductive things, but all in all, I think the building would have benefited from what we saw in the case of Harry Seidler, you know, a little bit of stone, you know, some vegetation, you know, here is an architecture which certainly doesn't tell the truth about our world as it is. You know, for example, yes, it was built before the war in Ukraine, but it is, you know, contemporary with the war in Ukraine. Now, in Ukraine, you know, terrible things happen while this building is so gloriously white. I find it problematic. China Museum of Design, the Bauhaus collection, Alvaro Siza and Carlos Castaneira. Carlos Castaneira is his partner in his later years, because again, Alvaro Siza is 90 years old today. Anyway, I don't insist on the plans. I don't know why actually I showed them. But here at least there isn't whiteness. And I think all of a sudden, you know, maybe the effect is better, but the only problem is these giant walls, you know, with no windows, or just a small thing there, which is like a door. Fortunately, there is this tree, this beautiful tree, but otherwise the building is, in my opinion, is too massive and has two huge walls. Yes, fortunately, there is ivy climbing on this wall on the right side, and that's a good thing. But I'm not even sure if he built the building on the right. He certainly built the building on the left. Maybe both are by him. I don't know if you know, but Alvaro Siza doesn't teach, you know, composition or, you know, a studio in architecture in Porto, but construction. And I find this very interesting and actually positive, that an architect very much in love with the artistry of architecture, and although whatever he said about functionality, but you saw his drawings, he is an artist, at least graphically speaking, in the field of graphics. He actually teaches construction, and this I like. Now, it is true that museums in general are just big containers within which one can find art. It is true. But why do they have to be so monolithical and so, you know, almost oppressive in the magnitude of their walls? Because very often they are museums, just this. But I like here the dialectics between the green of the tree and the reddishness, the pale reddishness of the building. Because green and red, it's not quite a red here, it's closer to a pink, but it's approximated the opposition of these colors, red and green, and that creates something dynamic to an extent. Most buildings, most museums are white, have white walls. Most museums have white walls inside the interior, and this is the case here as well. I'm only thinking again about the people who have to clean up the floor, which is also whitish or white. Not here, the floors, but the previous pictures. But when we design a building, we do not actually think often about maintenance, how you maintain a building. It's easy to just draw whatever you want to draw, but think also about the maintenance. I almost feel like, negating the very function of a museum when I see all these white, splendid museums that the Dadaists had. The Dadaists were against the museums. And in a way, I understand them because, yes, on one hand, we have to protect the artworks, but on the other hand, by isolating them from life and, storing them very carefully under, glass coverings in very septic conditions in museums, is it truly a perfect solution? I don't think it is. It's an estrangement. You estrange art from exactly what generated it, and that is life. I'm tired actually of these white museums, with the huge white walls, and where art is tamed. Art is not supposed to be tamed. I mean, even this approximate redness is a pale redness, is a pink actually. I find it a little bit misleading. Anyway, maybe I'm in a bad mood today, but I reflected on the work of Alvaro Siza for some time. The museum in Brazil, you probably know it. It was published copiously. This in Porto Alegre. Again, whiteness, but at least here you have the playfulness of the sculptural building. And it is an interesting idea to have that portion which extends beyond the limits of the perimeter of the museum per se and connects two sides of the building. I hope I have the plan here. He is obviously a skillful designer, a skillful architect. But even here, I would say, if I would compare this with, let's say, the Guggenheim by Frank Lloyd Wright, I think Frank Lloyd Wright had a vitalism, an élan vital, which I don't quite see even in the best works of Alvaro Siza. And I had seen a very disappointed work by him, disappointing social housing complex in Venice, of all places, very, 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 I don't know how to say it, very anti-life in a way. I could use other words, but I will stop here. I don't know if I have images of that work in this presentation, but you can search for it on the web. Alvaro Siza, Venice. Aldo Rossi did some work there too, but the one by Alvaro Siza is, I wouldn't like to live in that building. Let's put it this way. Here again, light and whiteness, light and whiteness. Fortunately, there is movement on these ramps, and that's a good thing. There is movement, is the movement of the visitors of the museum. But otherwise, I would welcome some graffiti artists to splash some color on this misleading whiteness. Well, yeah, this is the role of the art, to do violence to the white walls. But maybe we should move beyond the walls, to just become Dionysian within the building and explode what is not even murmured in this building, another building as well. Yes, the forms, as you can see, are interesting, but why so much whiteness? Why didn't he use also other materials, the tactility, the tectonics of the building? Why only whiteness, or almost only? And it is in Brazil, after all, a very colorful culture and country. The Capela do Monte, hillside chapel in Portugal. Here again, if there is a sign of life here, is that silhouette, which is photographed in its mobility and is an interesting, accidental presence in this picture. And the building is in a way unengaged. It's a form of disengagement somehow, both from spirit or the spiritual life and life itself. Yes, it is a well-crafted box, but in the end, at the end of the day, it's still a box. Very much so. Alvaro Siza, 90 years old today. I think even the camera has difficulty with so much whiteness. Fortunately, here there are some wooden pieces, the furniture, but otherwise the room, the spaces, and I don't know, maybe I have an upside down psychology, maybe something wrong with me, and that is possible. But I have the feeling that this interior is almost exasperating in its whiteness and the luminosity. It's because that's not how life is. When you look at the walls, I don't know, whitish ceramic tiles, I almost feel like I'm in a hospital or something. If it wasn't the wood, it would have been probably unbearable. There are beautiful things here, these wooden pieces, yes, they are very well crafted and it's solid wood, and I can only feel sorry for the trees that had to be cut down. But what can we do? I guess we have to build and build and build and build. So we have to cut down the trees. I like also his drawings, but why do they have to be on this background of, they almost look like whitish ceramic tiles? Um, the drawing is very skillful, yes. I like his drawings very much. So he illustrated with his own graphic work, scenes from from the Bible, I guess. But yes, I do have this devilish desire to have a graffiti artist splash some color on these, splendid linear expressions of distant timidity. Or look at this. If you remove the furniture, you could imagine this is I don't know, some space in a hospital or something. Located beautifully on top of a hill. Anyway, we saw this picture. because I think faith is actually the desire for faith. You desire to arrive at faith. And that requires, I mean, it's even a struggle. It cannot be white and it cannot be boxy. It has to, it's something very intense and very, you could say it's not, this is about spirit, and spirit is supposed to be white. I don't think so. Why should spirit be white? I think it ends here. It's not, I didn't do justice to him. I only showed 130 pictures. It's a small, it's an unjustifiably short presentation of Alvaro Siza, but on this day when he is 90 years old, we thought of him and I made this presentation, and I thank you for being here.